Then you drift into the nothingness of space.
Are you going to be... Oh, he's going into stable orbit.
He's going... Have you docked? Yeah, I learned the difference between docked and berthed. Docked is if he docks himself. Berthed is if I pick him up and put him on my lap.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning. Welcome back to Tentacle Quill.
We talk about a lot of space books.
We do. We really do. We kind of do love our science fiction.
One of the books we raved about long ago was The Martian, which I think everyone kind of is familiar with.
Yes, that was our second episode.
Project Hail Mary, though.
That's a good one.
Oh, so good. Before we go to outer space, next month,
Kickstarter.
The page is up so you can be notified when it goes live.
Indeed.
You're going to hear us talk about it a lot because it's kind of important for us.
Yes, so it's going to be the Lockhart Mansion 2 Kickstarter, which means that if you're into frilly bishes in haunted houses, not in space.
Sequels are hard.
Sequels are hard.
We should talk about the story about Artemis at some point. But Andy Weir writes this great debut novel in The Martian.
The Martian.
Everyone loves it. And he gets this big deal to write his ultimate book. And he goes off to write his moonshot project, his big ass project, which he went to write this epic space opera. And funny story, writers, when they're writing their moonshot, take forever.
They do.
So his publisher got really annoyed, and obviously The Martian was being made into a movie, and he needed a book to sell because, marketing. And so he kind of had to shit out Artemis.
Yes.
I still like Artemis. We'll talk about it another time.
Yes, I need to read that one still.
But it suffered. And then after Artemis, he kind of looked at his moonshot again, realized it was just too big a scope. He wasn't doing a good job of it.
Yes.
And he broke it down for parts. And one of the key parts of his epic space opera became the seed of this idea, Hail Mary.
Indeed, Project Hail Mary.
So let's do some non-spoilery.
Yes, there are probably going to be spoilers for it. But
put a warning.
Yes, we'll put a warning.
So Project Hail Mary, if you like The Martian, it's an easy recommend.
Very much so. This basically, our main character wakes up as the only survivor on a spaceship. Not as gruesome as all that, but still has to now figure out what he's doing. And as he slowly regains his memories, he figures out what he's meant to be doing, and there's adventures along the way.
Now, it sounds very similar to The Martian.
It kind of does.
But it's a very different book.
Yes.
It's a very... The setup's the same. Basically, lonely man in space has to figure out how to survive. But the truth is, it's a very different book.
It's very much is. It's interwoven with his memories of what happened on Earth before the launch.
Yeah, so the narrative structure is he wakes up, he doesn't know anything, and he starts to get flashbacks. And the flashbacks and the present time slowly work towards apex point, where he now knows everything. And that's about sort of midway through the book.
Yes.
And then he has to figure out the thing. And unlike The Martian, in which Earth and him are basically working to save himself, this book, he has a bigger mission.
He has a very big mission. It's being made into a movie.
Oh, yes, it's been made to a movie. 2026.
Yes.
Ryan Gosling is keyed for the role.
Yeah. And I was surprised they didn't pick Matt Damon, but I guess he's already been in an Andy Weir
already
book.
in space. Phil Lord and Chris Miller's Project Hail Mary starring Ryan Gosling will release in 2026.
I so look forward to it.
Yeah. The film follows a man who wakes up from a coma, afflicted with amnesia, and soon remembers he was sent 12 light years away from Earth to save humanity.
Yeah. That is very spoiler-free, but it's a really good...
Yeah. So that's the big difference between The Martian is, unlike humanity saving him this time, he has to save humanity. So structurally it's very different.
It really is. There's a lot more... And because he's not in contact with Earth, there's a lot more inner dialogue, but we're going to talk about that later.
Well, let's talk about this writing scale problem, right?
Yes.
Because obviously saving humanity is such a huge problem.
It really is.
And the nice thing about The Martian, it was really hyper-focused.
Yes.
Turns out this book is also really hyper-focused because he wakes up and one of my favorite moments when he's remembering things.
Yes.
is he starts to remember, I really like kids. And he has this
yes.
panic moment where he's like, I really like kids. Wait,
Oh, God.
I'm a single guy. Why am I thinking about my kids? And then he's like, oh, I'm a teacher.
Thank goodness.
It's like it's just like the brilliant moment.
It's a really good moment.
But he has like initially this wake up moment where there's two other astronauts because they've been put into like a medically induced coma.
Yes, indeed.
And the two other astronauts didn't survive the medically induced coma. He did.
He did.
And his first like thing is also just trying to figure out where he is.
Indeed, because
Right.
there's immediately a issue with the computer or something, and he has to try and fix it.
Well, because he has gravity,
Of course.
and that throws him.
Yes. It's also slightly different gravity.
Yeah. And we are going to start spoiling stuff more and more at this point.
Here be spoilers.
Here be spoilers. There is one big ass spoiler that we will give a warning before, but there's going to be some light spoilers from here. So he has to figure out he's where he is because there's
course.
gravity.
Yeah.
And eventually he figures out he's on a spaceship that's in a bolo configuration.
Yes.
So it's
to generate gravity.
gravity. This is a design of spaceship where basically instead of the rotating ring that we've seen a lot in sci-fi, the idea is that you have a bolo configuration where you have a counterweight way far out and then you rotate the shared center of gravity, because the bigger the circle, the slower the rotation needs to be. He does some experiments, he figures this out, but one of the things is he can't get through an access hatch until he gets more of his memory back.
Of course.
So he's trying to figure this out, and as he's going through this, and we're going to the flashbacks and we're getting more knowledge, he all of a sudden realizes humanity's doomed.
Yes.
And this is like the key thing from the big moonshot project, the thin red line.
The thin red line, the Petrova line.
Yeah, the Petrova line, because it emits this very specific frequency.
Wavelength, yeah.
Which is such nerdy shit. And this is why I love it, because like he clearly sat down. And yes, there's some like science fiction in there, but the science fiction's so well motivated, and you've got the problem solving and the suspense and the
like the little experiments that he does to figure out what the gravity on the ship is, or there's so much troubleshooting.
And it's so well explained, and the pacing is slow enough that you're there with him trying to solve it while you read.
Indeed.
You're guessing every page. And I find that really motivating.
Of course, because also with the flashbacks, they're perfectly scaled to intersect with where the story is at that point. They don't give too much away, they give something away, and then you contemplate on that until you hit the next point and it goes on. And
it break again, like we mentioned A-B story in last week's episode, but it is basically an A-B story structure, because what it does is it breaks you away from if you didn't have those flashbacks, you'd be reading about this guy in the middle of space, like dying, trying to survive without any breaks. Kind of how, like in The Martian, you could jump to Earth and you could have those sort of
moments.
Those moments, right? So it breaks it up.
Yes.
You know, it gives you that like breather. And I think that's also why it's so important that the character, much like in The Martian, is such a positive, likable guy.
He really is. And it's also, he also has flashbacks to his time on Earth, which really helps you figure out why he's motivated, why he's doing this. Emphasizes just the scale of his undertaking, because, for example, he teaches kids whose lives are going to be affected by this disaster, and he's just, at some point, he just looks out at them and has this like panic attack, because he knows how badly these kids are going to be affected before they can even start to solve it.
Keeping the scale of the disaster human level.
Indeed.
You know.
He's really good at that.
It's tough. It's tough.
It really is, because you have this like, oh, the world is doomed, and you can be there sitting eating popcorn like, okay, yeah, that was what we saw on Doctor Who last week. But when you add those little things, it really hones in the pain on the character.
And I think this is this is a hard thing when adapting. The Martian adaptation was perfect.
Brilliantly
So good.
done.
We had comments, but very minor.
Very, very.
The thing that's hard to do
Yes.
is to take that inner dialogue and to put it on screen.
Indeed, because a lot of the dialogue in The Martian wasn't really inner dialogue, it was logs that he made.
Well, no, some of it was inner dialogue in the
Yes.
book, which was converted to logs
Yes.
in the film.
Yes.
But yes, he did a lot of sort of talking to camera.
Yeah, indeed. And in this one, it's more the character's inner thoughts specifically. There is no dialogue for a lot of the book because he's just talking to himself, talking to the ship's computer. And to keep that interesting, to keep it from going bonkers, there's a lot of like little moments where it's made funny, where he's doing an experiment and something goes wrong. So it's really well done as well. It's really hard to explain, but it hits differently than having a character who's speaking to a log or something like that.
I think the key thing is that he has a very directed inner voice.
Yes. And the language that the character uses is also very specific and very well done. Like having a character's voice down is really important for this.
But I think it's also cognitive behavioral therapy and methodology and stuff. But it's like problem solving. And if you can direct your inner voice to be more having a conversation with you and problem solving, you enter into a healthier mental space. And it's like one of these things we know that some people have a more directed inner voice than others. And you can train it. But I think the fact that his inner narrative is so directed and so purposeful makes it really easy to read. He doesn't wallow as much.
No.
Obviously, he has to have like dark moments for the story to advance.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not a wallower.
No, he's not a wallower. He's generally a positive person, a good person. And yeah.
So this is where I think we have to cross a big spoiler line.
Yes.
And frankly, if you want to read this book and you haven't read it, I just encourage you, stop the video now, go click our Kickstarter, go read it, come back, comment below, and if you're one of those people, just tell us you did that, because
we'd really love to know that.
It'd be useful to know. You know, did you stop at the spoiler line?
Yes.
Okay, but this is your last. I'm gonna do like a little countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We have left off. Aliens.
The biggest spoiler,
of course,
for people who've read the book, is I love the fact we discover he wasn't a hero.
Yes.
He gets drugged into it.
Yes.
And he only becomes a hero through circumstance.
Yes. Accidental hero.
It's so good.
It's really good because because up to that point we have no doubts about what a good person he is. He must have done everything.
It's like,
and he thinks that as well until he comes to that memory and he's like, oh God, I was not up for this. Because
you could feel like a bit of a Mary Sue character at times, because he's like problem solving, he's super positive, you're cheering him on, he's saving humanity. It's like, no, you're a selfish little shit who didn't want to get on the rocket.
Yes. And it was,
And how good is the character who's put in charge of Earth? She is such a bitch in such the best possible way.
And it's also just, you want to kind of know how things have gone on Earth since, because Strat, who is the name of the character.
Strat, she's put in charge of Earth.
She's put in charge of the whole Project Hail Mary. She's basically...
Well, she has unilateral authority.
She has unilateral authority, basically a get out of jail free card from the president, and basically she just
love. No context, but she's a wall facer.
She's a wall facer, basically.
But anyway,
so and she even mentions at some point that when this whole project's done, when the ship's launched, she's probably going to go to jail because now her authority ends and she's done all these things. Yeah,
once the mission's launched, she's fucked. But she's such a good character, an interesting character. The Earth plot is so good.
Yes. Needed an epilogue, but at the same time it didn't.
No, it didn't, because the epilogue could never live up to what's in our heads.
It couldn't. And that's the problem.
The other big thing that's so different from The Martian is the moment he discovers he's not the only person trying to solve this problem.
Rocky.
There's an alien. Rocky.
There's an alien.
And it's a proper alien. It's none of this like forehead ridge bullshit. I mean, I love Star Trek, but...
Rocky is so alien that it's kind of funny.
And normally, like an audiobook is just an adaptation of the text, but because Rocky speaks with harmonics and stuff, the audiobook version of this is so damn good.
Yes, it really is. And it's like, basically, Rocky is a space organ steampunk. Space organ.
it's also just interesting how the technology levels are different.
Very much, because he assumes that because they have space travel, they have a lot more technology than they actually have. Because, for example, Rocky's species, his shipmates die of radiation, which they hadn't discovered yet.
Yeah, they hadn't like split the atom and stuff yet, but they have like their chemical, their manipulation of nano manufacturing is really high.
It really is. They have this.
The like diamond see-through material.
Yeah,
thing.
the xenonite. Yeah,
the xenonite. But also the fact that they have a different sensory apparatus.
Oh, very much so. For example,
because he's blind.
Rocky doesn't see. It's more like sound-based because his body is basically a microphone.
It is sound-based. It's more that he feels the vibration. It's more like tremor sense than echolocation.
He also lives in a very different atmosphere from our human character.
In many ways is better than our human character.
So much.
Which is so refreshing to see. Rocky is the hero.
Rocky is the hero that we deserve.
He's just so good.
He is baby, basically. Like, and also at some point when he has to make that decision of go save Rocky and both our civilizations, or save myself and my civilization.
Yeah.
We are kind of left with a very sweet ending where the character
he's
now
eating himself.
Basically, he lives on Rocky's planet for Iridium, and he basically has had to suffer a few years while they figure out what they can feed him. But now that they've figured that out, he's got protein shakes, he's got protein burgers of origin.
Yeah. But it's just like
teaching.
This is why I wanted to talk about like the post-spoiler line, because there's so much good to this book that if people are sensitive to spoilers, and this is like, I know that the film, the trailer's going to spoil this. The trailer's going to show aliens. They're not going to have this self-restraint.
It's also at a point where the book's been out long enough that you can expect a big majority of the people to be who are interested to have read it.
You overestimate how many people read. Remember, the UK has a much higher reader population than most countries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
fair. Okay.
Like, reading's taken an uptick and stuff because of TikTok and stuff, and, like, reading is up. Fewer people read than you think. We are an exclusive club.
Very exclusive.
Anyone can come in. This is like a library, bitches. Just, like, pick up a book and start reading. But, more people should read. But, like, I think you'd be surprised by how many people their first exposure is going to be.
The movie.
I think it will be good given the adaptation of The Martian. I also think it's very easy material to adapt.
Yes, we're not going to have the problem. I'm going to go on about it again, but where the three-body problem has this like high...
We've been scarred.
We've been scarred. Where the three-body problem has these like highfalutin ideas and very interesting concepts. No, this one's a bit more down to earth.
And it's very written in a Western culture. It's written close to a script.
Yes.
Like, as I say, when you read the book, I can picture the movie in my mind very clearly.
It's going to be very like The Martian, where the adaptation is going to be slightly different, but not completely.
Yeah. I think the main thing is going to be fitting stuff in. They'll trim the science down a bit, which is a shame because, as I say, I think the thing I enjoy the most about reading this book, and it's structurally, I think it's a thing that works well in a TV show, but wouldn't work well in a film, is the slow enough pacing to problem solve. So in a TV show, what you would do is you would sort of present the problem and enough information maybe to solve the problem, then you would end the episode.
Of course, yes.
And this is something that you can't do with bingeable TV, but with like weekly episode releases. And then people have time to speculate.
Of course, yes.
That's the way TV does it. But books, you can have that slower pacing, and the reader can just pause mid-page,
Indeed, and go back and read again and things like that, which you're less likely to do when you have to literally get up, grab the remote, rewind, sit back down, that kind of thing.
I think it's also one of those things that make the book easier to read than the audiobook, because the audiobook, I find audiobooks are really good for non-fiction for me and for reads that are a bit harder. Like, I'm struggling a little bit with the Three-Body Problem second book at the moment. And because I'm doing the audiobook, it's slightly easier to get through.
Oh, okay. For me, it's the opposite. I really love doing books that I've already read on Audible.
No, me too.
Yeah.
But I'm saying when it's a harder read, I find, when I say a harder read, I don't mean it's a technically hard read.
Yeah.
I mean when it's it's a work to get through, I find. But because Hail Mary is one of these problem-solving pacing books,
Yes.
I kind of want the slower pace. I kind of want to think, how's he going to solve this? Like the gravity thing. Oh, it was so good. It was the first little mystery where he's like, because why is gravity different from here to here? And then he's like, because obviously the first and most obvious reason why gravity could exist is the rocket's boosting.
Of course, yes.
Right.
Indeed. And basically, go read it.
Yeah, go sub to the Kickstarter. There's a link.
We quite enjoyed it.
We
look
loved
forward
it.
to the movie.
Hail Mary, fantastic. We've been watching and waiting for the movie to be announced because it's been optioned for a while and Ryan Gosling's been attached for a while. But now it's got a release date of 2026.
Yay.
Do you think he'll have his next book out by 2026? Bloody well hope so.